Hello and welcome to this episode of HBCU. I'm your host, Dee Brown CEO. Joining me on the show today is Dr. Malcolm Jones II. Malcolm graduated from Alcorn State University. Malcolm, welcome to the program. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, the pleasure is all mine. I want to jump right into the show, and I want to just really understand, how did you select Alcorn State University to be your HBCU of choice?
Man, well, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. So I grew up right around the corner from Jackson State University. I could hear the band practicing each night as I went to sleep. They would practice into the late midnight hours or whatnot. So I played football. That was my passion. I was kind of inspired. My parents took me to all the Jackson State games. My mother was a Jackson State alumnus, so I was inspired to play the game of football by watching Jackson State. But when it became recruiting time, I had several scholarship offers. And we went over to Jackson State for a recruiting visit, my roommate and I. And W.C. Gordon was the head football coach. And on this particular recruiting trip, the coaches told us, well, we have some guys in town from out of state. So we're going to spend a lot of time with them. You know, you guys are local and you guys will be right here. That kind of turned me off. So I ended up going a recruiting visit, which Cardell Jones was the head football coach. He had just gotten a head football coaching job and he was working at Jackson State. So he showed us a good time. We saw that beautiful campus, the serenity and the peace. And we just, myself and my roommate, man, we just made a choice to go to Alcorn. We thought that was the best place for us.
Right. So talk to me about your first day on campus at Alcorn. Do you remember that day and kind of what was your experience that first day there?
Yeah, I can remember that first day. My parents took me down. And I was nervous as ever about the new beginnings and being a college student and a college football player. It was very hot. You know, if you've ever been to Alcorn, it's pretty hot out there. There was nobody there but football players, so it was pretty quiet. And I still love the campus to this day. They've made a lot of upgrades, and things of that nature. And what I can reflect back on was just the serenity and peace that was there when we arrived.
Right. So talk to me about football practice and what that was like at Alcorn, just getting accustomed, going from high school to college, that transition, and then also what position did you play?
Well, I played defensive back. I played cornerback. But that transition from high school to college was one of the roughest transitions that I ever went through. Football practice at Alcorn was very grueling. I can remember when we arrived, we practiced 3 times a day when we initially got there. I think they've outlawed that now. Kids don't practice that much. But it was very grueling. It was very intense. It was hot. Your coaches wouldn't accept anything but the best from you. If you didn't get it right, you did it till you got it right. But the biggest thing that I can remember about going through that program was just the mental toughness that you had to develop. Because if you weren't mentally tough, you wouldn't make it. And to this day, if I can make it through 3 days at Alcorn, I can make it through any obstacle. There's nothing that I can't accomplish.
Right. So what was campus life like at Alcorn?
Man, I had a ball at Alcorn. That's one of the few things that I've done in life that I say that I would do again. You know, I pledged Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity in spring '93, and what I went through that I wouldn't go through again. But as far as campus life, man, I just can remember being out on the campus. The first when the students arrived from after 2 days or three days and things were over, we had a big block party. You had the DJ, you had people out there cooking. Uh, and everybody was just having a good time. And that's one thing about Alcorn. It's a rural campus, and man, you're talking about people who pull out a grill in a heartbeat. We put our money together. All the teammates, we put in $5, and we'd have big barbecues, and we'd sit around and just enjoy each other. But the campus life was great.
So you played football. If I'm not mistaken, you were on two SWAC championship teams, correct?
Correct.
Just walk me through
1990.
uh-huh,
Go
1990.
ahead. 1992 and 1994.
Okay. So just walk me through those seasons and what it was like, just the season, but also the feeling of winning a SWAC championship.
Man, at that time, SWAC football was still, what shall I say? You still had Division I athletes going to SWAC schools. You still had people being drafted. I played with several guys that were drafted and played had long careers in the NFL. But when I look back on it, our first year, Coach Jones took over. The previous year, the team was 3-7, and I think our freshman year we were like 7-2 and maybe one or something like that. And we had a lot of talent. You had kids that were very physically tough, athletic, and the conference there was a lot of parity in the conference. And when I think back on it, every time that you lined up on Saturday, you had to bring your A game.
Right. Was McNair there during your time?
Yes, McNair and I were freshmen. We came in as freshmen together.
Okay.
Probably one of the most gifted athletes that I've ever played with.
What was it like playing alongside him?
Man, Steve was a big old country boy. He's a big kid. He loved to have fun. But he was super serious about football. He didn't speak much, but when he said something, everybody listened. He was a warrior, probably the toughest guy I ever seen put on a football uniform, and he could get it done. He could play football, baseball, anything he picked up. He was athletically gifted. He could dunk a basketball 360 right under the goal without taking a step. He could throw a baseball at 100 miles an hour. He played for the Seattle Mariners also. But Steve, man, he was a good guy, hardworking guy. Would give you the shirt off his back, and we had a good time, man. Really, we really miss him.
So while you were on the football team at Alcorn, obviously there are some big rivalries. Talk to me about maybe the biggest rivalry that you all had during your time at Alcorn.
Man, Jackson State had to be the biggest rivalry. On the field, we didn't like each other. It was going to be very intense from first quarter to fourth quarter. Off the field, we would be cordial with one another. But that game there, I think the coaches were intense. The players were intense, and before all those games, our coaches would always share with us the stories about that rivalry. How coaches got to fighting before games, talking about Bob Hill and Marino Castle, and Coach Jones would always joke, hey, I may start a fight on Saturday before this game starts. So that was a very intense rivalry. You look back, as I look back, also Grambling. That was a big rivalry. We were playing the legend Eddie Robinson and those guys, man. I tell you, they were some gifted guys, and he was a heck of a coach. And we knew we had to bring our A game when we saw them, as well as Southern University with Coach Pete Richardson. He did a heck of a job over there. But those were three big rivalries that I could think about.
So you mentioned earlier that you are a member of the greatest fraternity on earth, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And I wanted to
Yes,
just
sir.
get that's right, Noop. So I wanted to get your take on on Greek life on the campus of Alcorn.
Well, hey, Greek life was very vibrant. Everybody had their trees they sat under, and you had your group and they had their group. But one thing that I can say, we all got along. We went to each other's parties, and we interacted with each other in a respectful way. But the Greek life was definitely a part of the, uh, the life that made things great on campus.
Right. So now you graduate from Alcorn State. Kind of take us on your professional journey. Kind of what did you do after you left Alcorn, and the next question is
Okay.
also how did Alcorn prepare you for the profession that you're in now?
Man, well, I tell you what, and I shared this story with anyone that I talked to about my journey. I never intended on being a teacher, a principal, a coach, none of that. I had no aspirations for that. My undergrad degrees were in biology, and my master's and my undergrad were in biology. So I thought I would be doing something else besides this. And the reason that I say that, my dad was a teacher for 30 years. He was a math teacher. And every time I asked my dad for some money, he would always tell me to ask my mom. He never had money. And as far as he told me, so I was saying to myself, my dad's always broke. I don't want to be a teacher. But I wanted to be around the game of football. I love football, which helped change my life. And my first job was in Memphis, Tennessee at Treadwell High School. And I started coaching. And once I got out there with the kids and I saw the need for mentorship and guidance that those young men needed, it sucked me in. And I went on from there to coach at several other locations as a head football coach, athletic director. And it became a passion and it became a calling. And like I said, it sucked me in. Once you see the guidance that these young men and women need, uh, I mean, it's hard to walk away from it, and that's what sucked me in. Currently, I'm at a high school right now where I'm the principal, and when you get an opportunity to impact lives and change lives, that's something that's special. That makes you smile when you can change the trajectory of a student's life. So education for me, man, it's definitely a calling. It's transitioning um, to be very challenging at this point. What all we have going on in our country, but it's very rewarding, and we need strong people to help lead and guide these kids.
Right. So you mentioned that football actually helped change your life. How so?
I didn't value education. Now, my mother and father preached education, and they valued education. They're both college graduates, but as an elementary kid, I really didn't value education. I was making D's and F's, and I was getting in quite a bit of trouble. And my mother and father put me on the elementary football team, and I loved it. Once again, I told you they took me to all the Jackson State football games, and that really inspired me to play. And once they saw that I liked it, they were like, well, if you want to play ball, those D's and F's got to go. Your grades going to have to get better. And I wanted to play so bad that I started paying attention in class. And I realized that I could do my work academically. And it became easy for me. And once I began to engage in the classroom and make better grades, I made up my mind that I was going to get a football scholarship. So I changed my life to play football.
Yeah. So how do you feel football actually helped prepare you to be the professional that you are today?
Man, football, man, and sports in general, if you have the right coaches, it instills discipline in you, doing things when you don't want to do them. It instills work ethic in you. I have a work ethic. Uh, I don't think anybody has a better work ethic than me. If all it entails is work, then I'll work from sun up to sundown. Nobody will outwork me. I got that from my football coaches. Uh, I will work. I don't mind working. I understand that hard work is necessary to accomplish everything. But those, when I think about the characteristics, those things right there teach you, work ethic and discipline, you can go a long way with them. It also teaches you how to be a good teammate. And you understand that you can't do things alone. Sometimes you need some help. And it teaches you a lot of loyalty and dedication. So a lot of attributes that I have in my professional career, I got them from sports.
Now, you talked about earlier how you're using your current position as a principal and as when you were coaching, how you use those positions to mentor youth. Who are some of the people that mentored you through your academic experience at Alcorn?
I can remember, and I'll start with him, Dr. Abram Dunbar. And he was an anatomy and physiology teacher. And when I got to Alcorn, once you start playing football and you pledge and all those types of things, you think you don't really have to go to class on a regular basis. And I was off track there a little bit, and he said, "Mr. Jones, you're a great football player. I like playing. I like coming to watch you play on Saturday." He says, "But my wife has never been more mad at me when I told my son at midterm that he needed to drop my class or he was going to receive an F." So I said to myself, "Oh, so Dr. Dunbar is telling me if I fail my son, I'll fail you."
Right.
So he had high expectations for me, and he would not accept anything less than my best. Every day that I came in that class, he was going to ask me questions. And I got to the point that Dr. Dunbar will not call my name, and I can't answer these questions anymore. And he held me to a high standard. He had high expectations for me. I can reflect back on Cardell Jones, the head football coach. I passed a class in the gymnasium one day, and he was up teaching class, and he had one student in the class. And I'm saying, man, coach should have just dismissed that class and let that kid go on. But he had some high standards. He had a standard of excellence. If one person showed up, he was going to teach. I look back on my position coach, Coach Tony Woolfolk. He was an exemplar because he always talked about, advanced degrees. He had like 2 master's degrees at that time. So that really instilled the value early for me that education was the way out. And when I look back on those 3 guys, they set a precedence that education was important and that you needed to work at all times and work hard.
So tell me about your decision to go into education and coaching. You mentioned earlier that was not initially part of your plan. So when did you decide that was going to be your calling and, to be able to impact the lives of so many other young people?
Well, my dad was telling me I was getting my degrees. He said, "Man, you need to get you some education courses." So I did that. So when I graduated from grad school, Memphis, Tennessee gave me a call about teaching. And once I went out there and I got with those kids that first year, I was hooked. And I went on from there. As coaches, we always have a mindset. I want to win a state championship. I want to win championships.
Right.
And God uses you to accomplish His task. I'm out there trying to win championships, but at the same time, as I look back over it, I won a lot of life ships. And when I talk about life ships, I changed a lot of kids' lives with that game of football, instilling discipline and work ethic and telling them how valuable education was and how important it was to have good character. So after that first year, I was hooked. And those first 10 years went by fast, and I looked up. I think I stopped coaching it after about 20 years and went into administration. But after the first year, I was gone. I was done.
So during your time as a coach, as well as in the education profession, are there any stories that stand out in your mind that you could share with us where you have been able to see the impact of your work on a child's life?
Oh man, we'd be here all day if I talked about all the stories. One of the things that I always prided myself in with my football players, was that they took academics serious. I hated to see coaches use student athletes up for their talent and they got nothing out of the deal. I wanted to have a mutualistic relationship, meaning that I was going to benefit as well as the student athlete was going to benefit. I can remember one student athlete, and I won't call his name. He was a foster kid, and he told me he ended up signing a football scholarship, ended up getting a master's degree out of the deal, out of playing football. But he said, Coach, I never thought that I could go to college until you said that I could. I never imagined going to college. And that young man is living a good life, a productive life. And you think about this, D, if I have no intentions of going to college and I don't think I can do something and I don't do it, how different can my life be? And when I was keeping count, I had over 150 kids sign football scholarships. And if kids can educate themselves, their whole worlds can change. And I had quite a few of them, and I prided myself in making sure that they took academics serious and they understood what good character meant and why it was important to exhibit.
So now that you're on the administration side, you've kind of walked away from coaching, correct?
Yes.
And so,
well, kind of. You really never stop being a coach. It just transitions on the people that you're coaching.
Gotcha.
You're still coaching kids, and then it transitions that you're coaching adults in order to help the kids.
Right.
So I'm really still a coach. I may have a different title, but I'm still coaching. I think that's a lifelong thing.
Understood. So tell me about the decision to transition from, being a coach of the actual youth to going into administration, where now you have to coach the adults under you so that they can have the impacts that you're trying to achieve on the kids.
Well, I tell you what took place. I got kind of tired of coaching, and I felt like it was time to move on. I had an opportunity to coach my own son, and I said after that I was going to transition into administration. I had an opportunity to work with my teammate as his assistant principal at Coahoma Junior Senior High School in Coahoma County. Lynn Lang, he was my teammate at Alcorn, and I worked with him for 2 years. And once again, I had no intent on doing that, but he offered me a job and I went over there with him. At that point, Dr. Tiffany Harger, the current superintendent at Forrest City High School, Forrest City School District, reached out to me and asked me would I be interested in an opportunity, a career opportunity. And I spoke with her, and she ended up offering me the job. And here I am. And from the principal seat, you don't realize how much influence that you have on kids' lives. And the biggest thing is, it is my responsibility to ensure that teaching and learning is going on, regardless of the community that we live in. And when I'm saying the community, you have your suburban schools, and you have your schools in your impoverished area. And we're in an impoverished area where I am. Sometimes people think that they can go in there and not do their job there. And as if those kids don't deserve to be taught. You have to create an environment and ensure that it's a safe environment. That's my responsibility to make sure that the environment is safe, that teaching and learning can occur. So, and once again, once I get into things and I get hooked and I see a need, I saw a need for myself making that environment safe. I saw a need for me making sure that these teachers have the best practices or strategies to make sure that my children are being taught. So this journey has been a good one, and I sleep good at night knowing that I'm living out my call.
Well, I don't think we could have ended the show on a better note. Very inspiring journey that you have been on, and then you made a very important point, man. When you get the opportunity to impact lives, I don't think there's no more fulfilling feeling in the world. So before you go, I do want to, number one, thank you for taking the time out your schedule to be on the show, and number two, I want to present you with our HBCU Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, wow.
For your commitment to historically black
Whoa.
colleges and universities, and for all the great work that you've done to impact lives of the children that you have had the privilege of serving. And so thank you so much for being on the program. And to my viewers, I want to thank you for watching this episode of HBCU. And remember, without you, there's no me.